you'll be able to help friends and family financially right away. Hi everyone, my name is Rika and thank you so much for stopping by my channel again. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about some assumptions people make when they are coming to Canada. It's okay to have assumptions, especially if you've never been somewhere before. I feel like assumptions are fairly normal and they kind of give you an expectation of what's going to happen, but it's very important that we keep our assumptions realistic and we try to make them applicable for the situation that we are going to go into. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the first assumption, and that is persons who have made the move prior know what they're doing. I can speak for me, that couldn't be further from the truth. I've made many mistakes along the way. I've asked other persons for advice, and if they've been here before and they just don't know, I accept that they just don't know, because every situation is different, and not because two people came up, went to school and got PR means that their journey was the same. Sometimes the journeys are so different. It's very interesting, but you can't assume that just because someone has made the leap before you that they are going to understand. Sometimes I learn from persons when they inbox me or email me and ask me, is this applicable to my situation? I'm just like, what policy is that? Like, I didn't even know about that policy. And they're saying, oh, it's XYZ and whatever the case is. And I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. And now I know about the policy. So it's oftentimes for me a mutual learning situation. So please don't get angry if you ask someone who's been here before or has been living here and you ask them a question and they're like, I honestly have no idea. Sometimes they really just have no idea. The next assumption is you'll be a manager as soon as you get to Canada, and this is regardless of your managerial experience. So if you had prior managerial experience, I do think that quite likely would increase your chances of becoming a manager, but then sometimes that's just not what happens. If you are a good manager and you have those transferable skills, quite likely the company, depending on the company, it could be recognized that those skills are transferable and you will be back in a leadership role, but oftentimes that's not the case. And if you don't have managerial experience and you expect to come and be in a manager position or supervisor position, I think you might want to pace yourself just to be more realistic and understanding. And I think sometimes we get really caught up in titles and like, oh, I'm a manager, whatever the case, blah blah blah, and we don't necessarily understand what employees need, the soft skills that's needed to lead a team, the technical expertise that are required for you to be a good manager. So pace yourself, enjoy the journey. I've been enjoying my journey, and I think that's a really important skill to have, patience, because it does go a very far away. The next assumption is coming to Canada is a life reset. So some people feel like, oh, I'm going to come to Canada, I'm going to start a brand new life and everything is going to be totally different. If you have problems that weren't geographically, that aren't attached to a geographical location, you are probably going to have the same issues when you come. So if, for example, you had some issues and it was identified that your personality trait is the reason why you were having those issues, it's probably going to follow you. So it's not a life reset. You really have to work to shape what you want your life to be in any new environment, and that includes Canada. So coming here with like, oh, I'm going to just start a new life and everything is just going to be perfect thereafter, you really have to work on yourself in order to kind of get that life reset that you want. But it's really not going to be a reset. You are going to have to put in a lot of work. The process is smooth. I even have some more videos to make just about my process. I'm just waiting to kind of finish telling you guys, like, everybody's process is different, but everybody's process is worth taking and it's worth going through it. I don't think I would change my process for anybody else's process, because for one, it gives me content. For two, I feel like it definitely has strengthened my personality. And when someone else is going through a hard time and I can be like, oh, I mean, when I was going through it XYZ, I feel like it does kind of lighten their day. Not that I had the worst experience, because I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of terrible experiences, so I don't want to make it seem like, oh, her experience was so terrible, and that's not the case at all. But I'm just saying that my experience hasn't been without challenges, and that's also okay. It's just a part of my experience. You have some people who come and their journey was almost seamless, so everybody's experience is worth going through, but I would just be mindful of that. Alright, sorry about the switch in location. The sun got really harsh where I was sitting earlier, so I decided to just kind of come over in this corner to finish up the video. So the next assumption is that persons assume things will work out with very little effort on their end. So sometimes people come here and they're not very prepared. They didn't necessarily network as they probably should have. The financial arrangements sometimes were made as recommended, by the government, and they just kind of feel like, oh, me have an auntie will live XYZ, and me have an uncle will always check in for me, and I assume that when I come there, they're just going to kind of handle a lot of the bigger bills that I have, and they're going to be wanted to help me. They're going to co-sign on loans for me if I run into issues, and that's a lot to put on your family and friends that are here already and you don't know their financial situation, or just whatever they're going through mentally, all of that type of stuff. So you do have to come prepared to kind of be like a one-man show, or if you're coming as a family, you do have to come and be sufficient as a unit and not assume that things will just magically work out. There needs to be effort on your part as well. The next assumption is that you will get a job right away. I haven't met anyone who got a job like they come this month and they get a job next month. It usually does take a little time. So just come prepared that you might not get a job right away. And if you do get a job right away, as the earlier point had said, you might not necessarily be in the managerial or the leadership position that you had in your country. And that's just the reality of moving to another place. It's not necessarily a reset, but sometimes your career is unfortunately reset and you do have to start from the bottom, and depending on the field, your experience might not be recognized from outside of Canada. You will get, this kind of ties into the previous point. So not only do people assume they'll get a job right away, sometimes people assume that the job they get right away will be a permanent job that has benefits and that will have a great pay. My first job was a contract job, and I took it because then it led into bigger things. So that's kind of something that you do have to be mindful of. Sometimes you do have to take like a contractual job, a temporary job, and I've heard other persons who have come and say they got hired on a contractual basis as well, and the contract was extended until they grew in that same company, and they were then able to get a better position. But the initial input of being on a contract or being on the lower end of the pay scale, that's something they had to grapple with initially, and then they grew. So you do have to bear that in mind, because that just might be your reality. You'll be able to help friends and family financially right away. I feel like a lot of persons can definitely understand where I'm coming from with this one, because I think a lot of times persons assume that when someone lives in a first world country that they are rich, or that they have a lot of money laying around, and that is definitely not the case. This would have been such a big investment for anybody. If you're moving to anywhere, it takes a lot of money. It's going to be a big investment, even if you're moving within the same country, let alone you're completely taking up your life and going somewhere else, and the challenges that present themselves with that type of move. People back home, their financial situation is rough. I'm not saying that it's not extreme, but at the same time, you do have to take care of you first, and you do have to kind of make sure that your new home is set before you are able to extend a helping hand. The next thing is that people often think that as soon as you reach, you are now able to file for them or to sponsor them to come to the country that you're living in. This is not only with Canada, sometimes the same with the US, and it's like you haven't even gotten like 2 paychecks yet. And persons are like,
hey, me have a brother, you can marry and you can carry him up, and only can make life together.
And it's like they don't even know that in your current situation, you're not even steadfast in the country. Like, you do have to get yourself started before you can even think about bringing anyone else in your situation. Your name might not even be on a lease at that point, so you can't necessarily help anybody. And eventually down the line, you probably are able to help family and friends in terms of sponsoring them to come to the country that you live in, including Canada. But you do have to ensure that your situation is stable and you are able to meet the salary threshold to do that, the accommodation thresholds to do that. I'm sure they have their different thresholds that you do have to meet in order to have someone come and live in the country with you. I haven't personally checked it out, because that's not necessarily information that intrigues me at this moment. Again, you might have to say no, and this no might just be, it's not no, but not right now. The next one is that everybody wants to be your friend, or everybody wants to help you. I know that Canada is often said to be like a super friendly place, and it's amazing and all that stuff, and it is a friendly place, but I don't think any one group of people can have one personality attached to them. Like, not everybody can be friendly, everybody won't be friendly, everybody won't have the answer. So you will meet, I assume that if your journey is kind of normal, that you would meet persons who are helpful and who have great information to give you. But unfortunately, you might also meet persons who have no interest in being your friend and have no interest in helping you with anything, because it's simply not their problem. Another assumption is that Canada is expensive. That assumption is true. I can definitely attest to that. Housing is expensive. Depending on where you get food can be expensive. And people say that healthcare here is free. Nothing is really free. You pay for it with your taxes. So that's just something that you need to, I don't know, I would bear that in mind, that you're not going to come and it's just going to be, you know, super affordable. Everything is super cheap. So many location changes, but we move. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to like this video, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Feel free to give me ideas. You can inbox me them, or you can email them to me, or leave them in the comments, and I definitely will take them into consideration for my next video. This video idea was inspired by the Smiths Empire. Thank you so much for this video suggestion, and I hope, well, I know my audience will enjoy it. Have a great summer and stay safe.